All right. So good afternoon, everyone. My name is Alisa Grigorovich. I'm an assistant professor in recreational leisure studies at Brock University in St. Catharines, and I'm very excited to be here today to chair this challenge area session for the EPIC conference. That's called Staying Connected. I'm particularly excited because it is a key area of focus in my own research. As I mentioned, I'm joining from St. Catharines, which is in Ontario, and this is the traditional territory of the Haudenosaunee and Anishinaabe people, many of whom continue to live and work here today. It's a territory that's covered by the Upper Canada Treaties and is within the land protected by the Dish with One Spoon Wampum Agreement. So welcome, everyone. I'll start us off with a brief overview to give you some context for this session that's grounded, of course, in my own experiences and research in this area. Then, in addition to this very short introduction, we have two exciting EPIC presentations as part of today's session by Pourghasem and Indira Gobin first, and then Becky White and Jerry Dragomir. And then we have a Moving the Dial presentation by Jennifer Siripong Mandel and Anika, Chabra, a root and seat. So before we begin, I have some housekeeping announcements. So first, I'd like to note that 4 EPIC conference sessions took place last week and are continuing on Zoom from 12 to 1 p.m. Eastern from Monday to Thursday this week. So we are the second last presentation, and there'll be another one. And we encourage you to attend all the sessions and also to download the EPIC conference program on the AGE-WELL EPIC conference webpage, which includes more details on each challenge area session. So as I mentioned, today's session has 2 research presentations. There will be a 5-minute Q&A following each presenters or each group of presenters, and then a Moving the Dial presentation followed by a general Q&A. So this is really an opportunity for you, all of our conference attendees, to contribute to an overall discussion that places the presentations in a larger discourse and addresses potential research and real-world impacts. So everyone's encouraged to use the Q&A box to ask questions, to leave a comment on a question, and to also upvote questions that others have submitted, because I will pick the questions that have been upvoted first. The session is being recorded and will be available for playback for everyone, and it'll be posted on the EPIC conference webpage and the AGE-WELL YouTube channel. All right. So I think that is all in terms of my housekeeping announcements. So now I'm just going to share my screen and walk you through a brief intro presentation to provide overview for today's session. Okay, and if you can't see the presentation, let me know. Just going to minimize. There. Okay. So over the last decade, there's been a notable rise in internet use among older adults, as well as their use of different types of technologies. However, they do remain a digitally excluded group, and they tend to use the internet and internet-based technologies to a lesser extent than younger generations. They also tend to use the internet and other social technologies more narrowly than younger generations, with older adults predominantly using these for information finding or sending emails, rather than for social connection or participation in online communities or spaces. Facilitating social connections is one of the most tangible offline benefits of using technologies, and it has many benefits for both older adults and carers. So for example, research suggests that older adults' use of the internet, including video chat apps, social media, as well as virtual reality, have all been shown to be negatively associated with loneliness and depression, and also positively associated with increased life satisfaction, social contact, subjective well-being, and good physical health. Technology has the potential for these benefits because it's a social connector, and it can facilitate communication with friends and family and broader communities. It can also facilitate engagement in leisure activities and access to new kinds of digital experiences, which all have psychological, physical, creative, and social benefits. All of these benefits are particularly important to consider, given how common social isolation and loneliness is in the lives of older adults and carers. So for example, nearly 1 in 5 Canadians 65 years old and older say they lack companionship. Nearly 1/3 of older Canadians are at risk of being socially isolated. While I couldn't find similar data on Canadian caregivers, a recent survey of US caregivers found that they were 15% more likely to report loneliness in comparison to adults who were not caregivers. And similarly, the UK found that individuals who are informal caregivers are 37% more likely to report loneliness than those who are not caring. So it's a pretty significant problem. So what do we know about barriers and facilitators to the use of technologies for social connection? Well, broadly speaking, these span social, physical, and psychological factors. So they're barriers due to social inequalities related to income and education that in turn influence barriers related to cost as well as digital skills and literacy. Research suggests that even older adults who access and regularly use technology can perceive that they lack the skills needed to use technology as a way of communicating with other people online. Of course, those who have social supports are more likely to use technologies for social connection, as often it's friends and family that help individuals start and support them through troubleshooting and observational learning. There's also individual barriers to use, including things like self-efficacy and fear, as well as physical factors, including things like dexterity or eyesight that can be challenging and it can impact technology use when using a smaller device, or when using a device that requires a particular level of dexterity, electrical conductivity, or cognitive ability. Older adults and carers may avoid using technologies for social connection because of valid concerns about their privacy being compromised, or about their concern about the trustworthiness of the information those technologies provide. Finally, and this is rarely talked about in the literature, is that there's often a mismatch between technologies and the real life or interests of older adults and carers, including their social engagement preferences. So for example, generally older adults prefer multimodal and interactive technologies that support both verbal and nonverbal communication, including gestures and facial expressions. But they also prefer that technologies enhance rather than replace their face-to-face social interactions. So what are some of the gaps and opportunities for innovation and future research in this challenge area? Well, recent research suggests that voice-activated technologies, such as smart speakers and other devices that have a built-in virtual assistant, may be particularly useful for facilitating social connection, given their accessibility features and their relatively simple user interfaces. However, much of the research on these and other technologies in this area continues to focus on younger adults, so younger older adults, living in a community in their own homes, often ignoring populations that may be more in need of technologies for social connection. This includes, for example, older adults with complex health needs, including sensory, cognitive, or mobility impairments that can impact social connection, as well as those living in congregate or supported living environments. This is particularly a problem in the context of long-term care homes, where severe loneliness may be double that of community dwelling populations. There also remains limited involvement of older adults and carers in the design and evaluation of technologies, especially as partners or collaborators rather than passive research subjects. And finally, we still do not know enough about how older adults adapt to using technologies for social connection over time and how they integrate these into their daily lives. All right. So that's it from my end. And I'm going to turn things over to Pourghasem and Indira Gobin. So while they set their presentation up, I'm just going to give a little bio for them. So Faye is a master's student in biomedical engineering at the University of Toronto. She's the co-founder of AgeUnity, specializing in business development and artificial intelligence. Currently, she works as a research assistant at KITE Toronto Rehab Institute. Faye is passionate about problem solving and applying innovative solutions in healthcare. Indira is a retired senior citizen from Trinidad and Tobago, and she brings her background in healthcare services to her role as a volunteer at the STOP. She's passionate about reducing isolation and loneliness in big cities and she helps people make meaningful connections. As the volunteer older mentor for the AgeUnity project, Indira brings warmth and wisdom to her work.
Okay, hi there. So my name is Faye, and I'm a co-founder at AgeUnity on behalf of my team here. A novel mobile app fostering social and cultural connections among all neighborhoods. And I'm a student in biomedical engineering at the University of Toronto and also a research assistant at KITE Toronto Rehab Institute. And I'm here with our partner, Indira.
Hi there, I'm Indira. I'm a senior and the partner for AgeUnity, mentoring the team from my perspective.
And also thank you, AGE-WELL, for giving us this opportunity to present here.
My story is one of the hundreds of thousands of Canadians in Canada, including all the immigrants who come over time. I immigrated from Trinidad 20 years ago, and now I'm living in a condo where I am far away from family and people I know. I have been living in this building, my present building, for over 10 years. But the only opportunity that I can see my neighbors is usually in the crowded elevator, and the faces are also changing very often. I tried to attend some social and cultural events with a friend nearby, but I still couldn't make real good connections. Some people would try social media platforms, but there are so many frauds, scams, and some people are not friendly on social media. I know many people also on the other end would be hesitant to take part for the same reasons as mine. In these condos in Toronto, we have a lot of units stacked upon stacks of units with lonely people living, containing many potential for real connections. But some of us, we cannot live otherwise in smaller neighborhoods because of the economics. I always wanted to find a reliable, trusted friends, people who I can just go grab a coffee, go to festivals, shopping, share ideas, learn new things, and to really build real meaningful connections.
Exactly. Indira needs in-person, lasting, meaningful connections with her neighbors. And she's not alone. So she's just one of the hundreds of thousands of older adults in need of social and cultural connections.
Many older adults face this problem, that despite being surrounded by people in urban communities, they experience loneliness and social isolation. Loneliness and social isolation can lead to reduced quality of life, poor health outcomes, such as increased risk of dementia, depression, chronic diseases, and in extreme cases, even suicide.
In fact, not only does social isolation increase the risk of dementia, a recent landmark study conducted by the Alzheimer's Society of Canada found that despite social isolation being a modifiable risk factor, it is still one of the leading risks of dementia.
Especially after coming out of the COVID pandemic, things have shifted and people really want to overcome the social isolation and get out there and make real connections.
At AgeUnity, we are in a mission to empower older adults to establish and maintain social and cultural connections in urban communities. We had the opportunity to be part of the AGE-WELL Summer Institute in 2023, and our team, by the mentorship of Indira and other mentors, could secure the first place, but that wasn't everything. We tried to listen to Indira's problem and understand the gap here. The gap for social isolation and social platform for connecting people in the same neighborhood or building is serious, and we recognize how we can solve it. So we did a co-design approach with Indira, and we're so happy that we still have this connection. And guest consulting whenever we want to make a change for the AgeUnity application was one of the things that really strengthens our application. And this is a picture of our team from the AgeUnity pitch competition. With AgeUnity, users will strengthen their social and cultural connections in their neighborhood through 3 simple steps. First, they will create a secure personalized account by selecting their interests, preferred activities, and cultural background. For example, I would say, I like reading, I like dancing, I like music. Then, by the help of a recommendation system, like AI, they can be matched with suggested neighbors and form a circle, like form a friend circle. They can also choose to share their picture, their avatar, or maybe only the initials. And at the end, they can see the main dashboard. So in the main dashboard, they can see the events board. For example, there's an event called Casual Walk and Chat. They can see their friends, they can see their interests and maybe change them. And based on their interests, there are some events that are going to be suggested for them. Also, there is another tab for like explore, and they can see everything that people are posting. For example, imagine that I want to go for grocery shopping, and Indira also wants to go for grocery shopping. So we two can get connected, and I can also help Indira in going out for helping just doing the grocery shopping together and not doing it alone. Another thing is the a skill exchange. Imagine I know guitar and I just want to learn it to other people. For example, I want to learn another language, like I want to learn Chinese. And also you will have the cultural exchange, the community club, like meeting club. So we're trying to focus on in-person activities rather than online activities. And we're trying to also be as diverse as possible and make it enjoyable for everyone. They also have a tab for notification center and also messaging buttons. We aim to create an app which is effective in making a meaningful difference in the lives of users. For that reason, our app will undergo an impact assessment in which we will address user feelings of loneliness, social isolation, and community belongings, as well as app engagement. Integration with condo managers will allow us to conduct further impact assessment through analyzing data on the use of common and social areas within the apartments. In case of the market size, right now we have 0.84 million Canadian adults living in Canadian most major cities, reporting loneliness and social isolation and on a smartphone. And by 2037, our future market will increase to 1.4 million Canadian adults. Our app helps older adults living in their apartments by decreasing time spent alone and increasing engagement in social behaviors with neighbors. We intended to adopt a freemium subscription model where free users are limited to posting some events. For example, they can only post up to 10 events per month. And if they want to do more, they can pay for $10 per month, and also they will be unlimited user. And as a second stream of revenue, we can invite local businesses to pay for promoting their events within the events page. Our app differs from our competitors like Amitra and Meetup in several ways. First, our interface is designed with the end users in mind, and it is based on one of the 10 heuristic principles of design. We focus on principle 6, which is recognize rather than recall. Our app is designed specifically for older adults, and we're focused on creating an interface in which users are able to recognize how to use features in the application rather than recall how they has been taught to. And most importantly, our application fosters very localized friendship, as close as like next door's friendship. We are a diverse group of motivated people who are eager to solve the social isolation problem for older adults, including Kelsey as our psychologist, Tina as a life science student, Jessica as a postdoc epidemiologist, Richard as a creative connections, Indira as our partner, and me as an AI specialist. We had the opportunity to present our work at the AGE-WELL Annual Conference 2023 and ICARE 2024, which provided us with the numerous connections and ideas for our venture. Additionally, these events also offered lots of connections, lots of grateful ideas, and right now we are having some potential customers that's willing to have our application into their condos, and they also looking for integrating new applications for getting connected people in the same building. And right now we are also looking for motivated team members specifically in the field of web development. So if you're interested or know someone that is also interested, don't hesitate to message me or scan this QR code, get connected on LinkedIn, and we can definitely talk through it. Thank you so much for your attention.
Thank you.
Thank you, Faye and Indira. So we're going to do the Q&A now. So our first question is, so Faye and Indira, how is what you've created different from other existing apps like Meetup or WhatsApp, Insta, etc.? And are you adding some cognitive assistance features?
Great question. So for the difference between other applications and AgeUnity, the main difference here is that the connections in the AgeUnity application is so secure. So everybody in the application are the residents in the same building. So they're already recognized before, and they're not just some random people sign up to the application and trying to meet up other people. And the other thing is that we were thinking about having other features, like, for example, babysitting in the future. And for those kind of situations, we can ask those people to have a background check. So that means we can make it more secure and not being worried about who is going to come to my home, who is going to take care of my grocery shopping or everything. So that is something more secure. And also maybe Indira can talk about why they are not using like Facebook or like other social platforms. And yeah.
Because there are so many scammers. Some of us have already been scammed on it. It's a frightening place to be.
Yeah, and also like the other difference with Meetup is that Meetup is for everyone. So you can see many events there, and sometimes it's also confusing. I remember when I opened the application, I saw many notifications, and I just wanted to like having some limited features. For example, only I want to do something within my apartment. So that makes it more easier to use.
Thank you. All right, so I have time for another question. And so you mentioned this a little bit in your in the answer you gave, but is the platform for older adults only, or is it anybody who lives in the condo?
So it couldn't be for only older adults. It should be for everybody living in the same apartment. But our focus for designing the application is for older adults. So we had this opportunity to talk to Indira and also ask questions. Do you like this application? Is the buttons are okay? Do you navigate through the application? So our focus for designing the application is for older adults, but everybody can join the application. And also we have some future thoughts that, for example, in the condo, instead of having emails or, for example, notifications for SMS, they can have the delivery packages, car share, and also everything included in the application. So that means it's like an all-in-one. They can get connected, it should be safe, and also, yeah, it has everything for everybody in the same building.
Awesome. Okay, last question. So the question is, did you have any research to show that people will pay for your solution?
Yes. So first of all, when we had to came up with this solution, we did this with our partners over the Summer Institute. But afterwards, what we did was that we went out and also like show it to other people, also older adults who were attending the AGE-WELL conference, and also people who were attending to the iCare conference, and asking them, are you willing to really pay for this? But like a systematic review, like if we send some forms, no, we didn't do that, but we try to ask some questions. And also we have a potential customer that is willing to really have a trial on the condos. So we are willing to have that. And next time we will have these reports and came back.
And I also asked some of my volunteer colleagues, and most of them are very much interested in getting this app. Coming out of the pandemic, you know, either priorities have changed. People are willing to pay for real meaningful social connections now.
Yeah, I also had a problem that so I came to Canada like 2 years ago, and I don't know my neighbors yet. So if we could create this application, that would really help me as well.
Yes, I can see lots of potential for lots of people to get to know their neighbors. Thank you. All right. So now I'm going to turn things over to the second presentation from Becky White and Jerry Dragomir. So while they set that up, I'm going to do their bios. So Becky is a PhD candidate in the Department of Gerontology at Simon Fraser University. Her research focuses on the role of seniors, centering on promoting the health and well-being of older people in Canada. She's currently a MITAC's Accelerate Fellow at a Vancouver-based 411 Senior Center Society. She holds a master's in public health and previously spent over a decade working in health and social care services management in the UK and the US, where she developed an interest in community-based approaches to supporting healthy ages. So Jerry acts as a treasurer for 411 and the chair of the 411 research group. He's managed Pace Accounting, Inc., a public practice accounting firm, since attaining his accounting designation in 1984. He was granted a fellowship in 2013, and his firm provides accounting, strategic governance, quality, and operational management services to the non-for-profit sector in the Lower Mainland British Columbia. Since 2012, Jerry has coached athletes at the Olympic and World Championships level, and those athletes have won 10 medals at the Olympic World Championship level. And he also attained a master's in high performance coaching and technical leadership in 2021. So.
Great. Right, we'll start. Thank you so much for that introduction. So we thought it'd be really helpful to start with a brief history of the partnership between 411 Senior Centre Society and the Science and Technology for Aging Research Institute, known as STAR, at Simon Fraser University. Sorry, I'm using very old technology, which is now taking me back in time. And so the partnership began when back in 2019, when 411 approached Professor Andrew Sixsmith at the STAR Institute to explore a potential collaboration for community engaged research looking at the digital divide and how it impacts the older adult community. And the partnership has evolved from here and is really shaped by shared values of supporting older people to engage and utilize technology in a way that benefits their safety, promotes their independence, and enhances their social and civic lives. And through this partnership, the organisations have partnered on a series of community-based projects with the overall goal of supporting key priorities identified by 411 seniors and that have made a significant immediate impact on the lives of Vancouver seniors, but particularly focusing on digital inclusion. And we are now looking to expand that, but that's beyond the scope of today's chat.
All right, and the 411 Senior Center, as it says, they're run by seniors for seniors, is governed by it's an independent charitable organization governed by a rather innovative and adaptive strategic plan that looks at 5 primary areas of interest. The areas are advocacy, community connection, education and information, and nutrition and health, because we think these are the 5 areas where we can connect seniors to the services that they need and the things that make their lives work well. Okay, I think we can leave it there. There we go. And now, so out of the work we did with our strategic plan and the development of our new building, which is purpose-built based on what we think the future of senior centers needs to be. And one of the things that we came across, actually, COVID sort of pushed this to the front for us with the extremely rapid pace of digitization of government services. We were finding that more and more of our members were coming to us for help with navigating their these rather essential digital, basically, barriers for them. And so we worked with the provincial government to solve some of the problems, and we looked at how we really can work with our seniors on an ongoing basis to allow them to be able to exist and thrive in a primarily digital world where their supports are concerned. And that's where this Better Connected project comes from.
So we wanted to explore peer-to-peer based approaches to digital skills development because this is very much in line with 411's mission. We're aware of the research and programming around intergenerational digital skills programming, of which 411 also offers, but we wanted to kind of broaden the support. And we ran a series of focus groups with members to really understand their digital needs and understand where the potential gaps in support were. And this was particularly important for those that perhaps didn't have support from family at home. And while traditional digital skills programming is important, and I mean kind of classroom-based learning, there was a real call for kind of a more informal and ongoing relationship. So the evidence out there says that, you know, peer-based approaches offer lots of opportunities in terms of collaborative learning. They're also really great at building social connection, and we see this program as a real opportunity to bring together members that perhaps don't cross paths in other ways, but also drawing on the immense experience and expertise of some of our volunteers who've perhaps previously had successful careers in kind of the tech space, or are wanting to use those skills in a different way and build connection at the same time. So we see this as a real reciprocal benefit. So how have we gone about doing this? Well, we are new to this space, so we've been very keen to explore who else is doing something similar and how we can draw on that learning. And we've connected with organisations within Canada, including Connected Canadians, which some of you might be familiar with, an organisation that provides training for those providing peer-based support, and also outside of Canada. And a shout out to Alisa, because she organises so many great talks, of one of which was with a colleague in Finland who was doing her PhD on peer-based learning in Finland. And through that, we've actually made a connection. She's coming here to Vancouver to work with 411 for a bit. So that's been a wonderful example of how AGE-WELL creates new connections. And so our approach really is around this theme of kind of co-creation. We want to make sure that the program that we develop, it meets the needs not only of the mentees, the people receiving the support, but those volunteering. And in terms of how we're going to sort of measure the impact, we want to understand the benefits in terms of social connection, as well as increased digital skills and confidence of those receiving that support, but also the impact on the organisation. It's, as many people know, the nonprofit sector constantly trying to evolve and understand new opportunities for volunteering. And this 411 has a great volunteer base. We're looking at ways to offer different types of volunteering opportunities, which this is obviously like, it's envisaged that it's a peer-based program that could be in person and virtually. So it offers a certain level of flexibility for people who might have other commitments, for whom kind of a traditional in-person fixed time volunteering doesn't work so much. And we hope the research really helps to start to plug the gap in terms of an evidence base for peer-based non-formal digital skills programs for older people.
Yeah, so I didn't mention what our vision was when I was introducing earlier. So our vision is, as a whole, for everything we do, creating an informed, connected community. And we think that is the thing that will keep seniors at home and in place in their communities and thriving. So we're looking to build on this work here to take it into the health area, nutrition area, and our other sort of primary support areas that we see for seniors. And overall, I think what our goal is here is to try and take and turn seniors from a problem to be solved to a solution. There's a lot of resources out there. There's a lot of seniors that have a lot to offer. And our job and our role is to mobilize those folks to come to support the other seniors that are in our community that are not as fortunate as some of us are.
I don't think I can really top that. So on that note, we'll end. But just an acknowledgement that I am a MyTex Accelerate fellow that's helped support some of this work. any questions? I should also add, we have Michael Volker, who's the executive director here at 411 on the call. So,
Right. Thank you, Becky and Jerry. So let's go to the Q&A. So our first question is, are you considering including people with different capabilities in terms of their hearing or vision in the context of your peer-to-peer support?
Okay, I'll take that one. Okay, our goal is full inclusion, regardless of any state that our members might be in. And so, yes, we will accommodate everything we could possibly accommodate, because that's who we are, and we need that.
That's a tall order.
Hey,
Yes.
and if we don't do the job right, we create a lot of problems for you folks. So, yeah, it's a bit of a change in the way that that we approach things, but we believe it's necessary.
And I should add that our approach is a co-design approach. So the workshops we ran as part of the kind of initial consultation stage really did include people from different backgrounds and with different capabilities. And we will be working with with some members of that group to make sure that the program we design really meets the needs of many different people.
You spoke in your presentation of how there's not a lot of research on the peer-to-peer supports. And often people do get support from families and friends. So I'm curious if in those focus groups, it also came up that a lot of people may prefer the peer-to-peer support and actually keep their friends and family, well-meaning as they are, outside of this.
That's an interesting one, because I think it's fair to say when we ran the workshop, there were some individuals that perhaps didn't have that support, that might have felt that they weren't necessarily able to share, because those that are talking about their family, you know, that can kind of, that becomes a more prominent theme in the conversation. And then I have had a number of separate conversations afterwards when we kind of say, so well, how would you feel about a peer-to-peer? Like, why are you not currently accessing some sorts of supports? And people did feel that was something that was helpful. And we also had the other side, the frustrations of like, yeah, okay, well, I get help from my grandchild, but they rush through, or then I don't want to bother them was the most common thing that came up. Like, yeah, my family member can be really helpful and they have such, you know, knowledge, but I don't want to bother them because they have busy lives. So we're recognizing that even for those people that do have that support, there might need to be another way of doing things. And it's not to say that that's the wrong thing. And it's interesting talking to my colleague in Finland. She said the kind of push there is, well, go and talk to a younger family member. And she's like, no, there's a great wealth of resources out there. Like, we need to recognize that the default doesn't need to be just go to a younger person, because that peer-based relationship really offers something else that's different, not better in some ways, but different, that perhaps that intergenerational relationship can't.
And I think one of the pieces that came out of the interviews that we did and the focus groups was that people were interested in being understood, and it was important for them to be understood by their peers. And there was a general thinking that peers would be able to better understand the issues that these people are dealing with, rather than people who are working at a different level of functionality or a different level of background experience. And you have to remember, like, when I took my first computer course, computers didn't have monitors. You used a box of cards that you type punched and put them through the machine, and it did a thing. That's my peers. And then mostly we didn't grow up with computers. We didn't have the kind of, and so there's a common understanding of the evolution that that doesn't exist with younger people who think that these things have always been here.
Yes. And that makes sense to me that that would be comforting or at least helpful for the relationship that's needed to actually then receive and provide learning.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Thank you. All right.
Oh, the other thing that you get from this is the person who's being assisted. Okay, the very first time that they can assist somebody else with something that was a problem for them, the joy that they experience from being able to do that is almost overwhelming.
Yeah, I can definitely imagine that. Yes. Thank you very much, Jerry and Becky. So I'm going to turn now to the Move to the Dial presenters. So Jennifer, Siripong, Mandel, and Anika, Chabra are Root and Seed. So while you guys set that up, I'm going to do your bios. Well, your combined bio. So Root and Seed is a tech startup revolutionizing the culture, connection, and story preservation landscape. By harnessing the age-old power of storytelling with intuitive digital and physical tools, Root and Seed helps people claim, honor, document, and celebrate their unique culture, identities, and stories. Unlike alternatives that focus on DNA or end-of-life memorials, Root and Seed is focused on deepening bonds through conversation. It's this focus on connection, not the end product, that has led to the expansion from people's homes and families into schools, workplaces, and older adult facilities. Take it away.
Thank you. So it needs to be easy. No integrations, no software updates. That's what we often hear from elder communities and senior centers when we try to talk to them about the technologies and the products and the services that are right for integrating into their activities. So Root and Seed is great because whether you're 8 or 80, you just pick up Root and Seed and you get it. If you have a family, you immediately recognize the value. So, like we just heard, by harnessing the age-old power of storytelling with intuitive technology and physical products, we inspire family conversations to allow people to claim, honor, and document their unique culture and their family stories. And you know what? We do it by bringing people together. Our competitors are bringing AI, artificial intelligence interviewers and intermediaries into the conversation, but we don't want that. We are focused on deepening intergenerational bonds by actually fostering connections so all parties can benefit from that strengthened relationship in life. Oh, you're on mute.
I was just saying hi. We're Anika and Jen. We launched in 2021 during COVID and during the height of cultural movements and reclamation, and started with a hypothesis of attracting the sandwich generation, in particular, second-generation immigrants, to claim their cultural traditions. But its simplicity and its importance, it resonated broadly. And we gained traction, significant traction, from early earned media attention that resulted in inbounds from schools, retirement homes, and community organizations. And because we were accessible and inclusive from the very start, we widened our approach and focused in on intergenerational connection, all leading us to a journey into the age tech space and a sector that we proudly call home.
So it's no surprise, we all know that our older adult population are at higher risk of social isolation than the rest. But we are in a broader epidemic with loneliness affecting all of us. And in fact, this recent New York Times article, definitely suggest you read it. It brings to life the concept of the loneliness curve. And that's essentially saying that younger and older life stages, they're the loneliest. So our platform, Root and Seed, is well designed to answer this epidemic, bringing generations together over conversation, connection, and preservation.
Now, there's empirical data that proves that reminiscing and sharing your story have incredible benefits to your physical and physiological health, namely a reduction in cognitive decline and improved mood from a greater sense of belonging and purpose. Plus, when children, including adult children, hear the stories of their elders, it builds higher levels of emotional awareness and well-being.
So we created a conversation preservation platform designed to get different generations to interact, and it works online, or it can be just offline. and it can be bridged together. A card deck of prompts is the tactile element that our elders crave, but it intuitively links to a mobile companion tool to create a unique experience that engages the younger audience with journalist-inspired dig deepers and recording functionality. So let's just see it in action.
I used these conversation cards at a family party recently, and they aren't your typical conversation starters. They prompt topics that get into family heritage, the meaning behind traditions, even why some heirlooms are around, you know, the important stuff. But the reason it works isn't what you think. It's not because I have a talkative family. So I asked Papa, what is a favorite childhood memory? And you know what? I can't remember anything. So I pulled out my phone and clicked into the QR code because every single question has a series of dig deeper questions available on the free companion tool. They probe for more detail, but in a way that just breaks it down and makes it easier to get into the headspace of nostalgia and reminiscing. Like, who are your favorite childhood friends? Or what toys or games or activities do you remember? So let's get into the question that he actually answered. Papa's favorite childhood memories. I added a title. I got a 1.5-minute long recording, added some notes. I'll probably add some images later. But honestly, it was amazing because now I have everything saved in my own private family library. I can download it, I can share it with my family, or I can come back to it later. I'm serious. The Root and Seed conversation tool makes talking history and family stories with your loved ones so easy and fun.
So these conversation cards are being used every day in schools, workplaces, medical treatment centers, bereavement centers, long-term care, and cultural centers. We are so proud of the diversity of organizations who have recognized the value in bringing Root and Seed to their users and their visitors. But it's not solely the responsibility, on the next slide, of our aging population to share their stories. We love it when the kids get involved. They're the best icebreakers. And so a teacher recently incorporated Root and Seed into a 4th grade social studies project and noted the students got to learn about their families in another light. They only really know them as the role, like grandma or uncle, they play in their lives. But this got them to understand their loved ones on a human level. And that sense of purpose that comes from just one round of playing with Root and Seed is palpable. Joe Diamond, he's one of our favorite 81-year-olds. He's been a Root and Seed user for 2 years now. He said, it's therapeutic for people to know their stories will live on and their legacy will live on.
Now we realize that not every family is ready for deep conversations, so we meet them where they are. From inspirational stories on our blog and our podcast, to tips on our blog, to simple cards to break the ice, and a secure mobile tool to preserve the memories. We even welcome users to make up their own game with their own rules. We also motivate celebration through community events with intergenerational connection in mind, like Grandparents' Day and International Women's Day.
So what's next? For our original audience that Anika mentioned, the families, we're continuing to release new holiday expansion packs so families can capture the stories, traditions, and recipes that make their cultural and religious holidays very special and unique to them. Because you can't find Nani's secret holiday chicken recipe on Pinterest. You gotta ask her yourself. And in elder communities, we will continue to experiment with different ways and partnerships to make meaningful conversation easy for families who have a loved one in residence and both caregivers and activity coordinators. From curated activities to add to social calendars, to partnerships with volunteer networks like Music Share for Seniors, our biggest rewards actually come from this audience. The Brenda Stafford Foundation is using Root and Seed throughout many of their homes, and a PSW recently shared this tip. I find it fun and effective to also answer some of the questions myself, so the residents feel it's an equal experience and I'm not bombarding them with too many questions during my one-on-one.
And so for workplaces, we have successfully completed pilot projects this spring in a variety of workplaces. That help really employees to connect with each other and one another and to also understand themselves better. Perhaps what excites us most about the potential of this is for us to help with the changing demographics, to build bridges between generations in the workplace. This article from the Harvard Business Review points to the 6 generations that will be in the workplace and is a call to ensure that we are making each generation feel seen and heard and valued. So with that in mind, if there are any aligned research projects, interested organizations, like-minded ventures who would like to collaborate on supporting workplaces as they work towards the goal and supporting the 6th generation workforce, we would love to hear from you. And with all that said, telling stories is not just about the past. We've known that from the start. In fact, that is why we are called Root and Seed. The power for stories to be the investment in your past, which creates value in your future so that you can celebrate them today, is tremendously important. So that older adults, caregivers, and younger demographics, honestly, everyone, can all be active, vital citizens. The benefits are absolutely clear, and we can't wait to keep growing. So thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Okay, so now I'm going to turn us to the general Q&A. So people can ask questions of any of our panelists, including the Root and Seed folks, or any other question that that comes up in the relationship to the session. So I don't see anything in the Q&A. So I will see. So the first question I have from the chat is for Root and Seed. How much does it cost and where can you get it?
Oh, I'm still off. Great.
We have a website, rootandseed.com. We can drop that into the chat. The cards themselves cost $39 Canadian, and the reason for that is because the mobile companion tool is always going to be there to add to the experience. So it's more than just a deck of cards. The cards themselves, we have our family deck, which is great for learning about your whole family's history and traditions. And then we also have a memoir deck, which is great if you wanted to have a one-on-one conversation with one particular loved one and get their full story there. That's the memoir version.
Thank you.
And there is no subscription fee.
Awesome. All right. So another question for you guys. How are you managing, it says other languages. I'm assuming languages other than English in the context of this kind of conversation.
I love this question. So we did a bunch of testing in the beginning, and because we were cultural from the start, I love, Jerry, what you said about some of the values that you had as a beginning organization and how you were keeping them through from an accessibility and a diversity standpoint. And same with Faye and Indira, you're absolutely culturally forward from the get-go. So I feel like we're very aligned, the 3 presentations today. We decided to go with audio first from a recording standpoint, which allows people to speak in their own language, which is tremendous. And it really allows us to break barriers between generations. I'll be honest, I couldn't speak the same language as my grandparents. And so being able to have their recordings and their voice in their language, in their native language, is absolutely tremendous. So now, moving forward from a kind of technology standpoint, we'd love to work on making it absolutely accessible from a prompt standpoint in different languages, and that's on our roadmap. But from this point, you can absolutely answer your questions and have your elders talk in their native languages.
Awesome. All right. So now I'm going to ask a question. So this can be to anybody on the panel. So the question is, we talk about the problem of finding a solution to address social isolation, but how can we advance education on the importance of social connection?
I'll start. Oh, actually, Faye, you're on mute. Go ahead.
No, I think Indira, do you want to go?
Well, I was thinking getting the youths, get the youths involved, and reaching out, because they totally unaware that there's a social isolation problem with the elders. And if they could understand that one day they would be there too, that and bridging the gap from that perspective can help.
I was also thinking that in my perspective, the age for social isolation is not only for older adults, so also like youths are facing social isolation. I was just saying, Indira, that when I was looking for friends in a new country, I noticed many like fake friends, and I couldn't find real relationships, like real connections. So that would also help me in building a real connection and like going out, having socialized events. And I think that would help the future, which is us.
Thank you.
Yeah, I think that you can also look at this by turning the tables or changing the perspective that you have. I'll give you an example. In 411, when we looked at what our food programs and nutrition programs needed to be, now most commonly, what happens is food program will bring food to seniors, right? Kind of makes sense. They have trouble mobility issues and that. But that doesn't do anything for social isolation and communication. So we turned it on its head, and our programs bring seniors to food. And so not only are we working on the nutrition piece and resolving that, but we're also building a connection and a community piece into that. And usually when that happens, we also make other connections to other services that we offer that the people aren't maybe not aware of, that we can also further connect them to this community that we're building.
That sounds wonderful. Thank you. Yes.
Root and Seed has actually started with the families on our online tool. Half the questions are designed specifically for children so that they have the words and, almost use a card as a permission, as an invitation to initiate a conversation with the elder generations in their family. I mean, everyone is hidden in their phone and they're almost afraid to interrupt the other generations, whether it's the elder to the younger or the younger to the elder. And the more we can give people the words, the questions, it makes people realize that the connection is desired by both parties. And that's why we started with schools to go to them and do these pilots with schools, because it's so important for the students sometimes to have a graded excuse to go and ask their great aunt or their grandma or their uncle a question. And once they realize that people are interested in talking about nostalgia or history or favorite, foods, it opens up the door to a lot more meaningful conversations.
Thank you. Becky, did you want to add, or should I go to the next question?
Go to the next question. It was just more of a musing, just about how we've got 3 very different projects, but technology is a facilitator, and it is essentially about building the real connections between people. I think particularly with kind of AgeUnity and the 411 project, the technology is kind of a nice to have, but it's really about bringing people in person in the same way Root and Seed is really about building that connection. So.
Yes, there was beautiful synergy between all the presentations. So I guess my last question is going to be, what is your next step? So you've presented a piece of the research or a piece of the information gathering. What is your next step? And that's open to anyone, any panel.
Yeah, I can go. So our next step is to develop the prototype and also go and test it with the real users. So that's why I just said, if you know any web developer and if you're interested, even for the brainstorming sessions, just message me, just get connected on LinkedIn. We will definitely go through them. And also, as we are all multidisciplinary people, that would be very, very beneficial, because we really want to make something that is specifically for people who are going to be our next users, like older adults, youth, everybody that are living in a building and they are facing social isolation. So our next step would be to really develop the application. We already have it Figma, but we need to develop the backend and also the front end. And that would be our next.
Awesome.
Our next step, we are in the process of recruiting the mentors and mentees to be part of our program. So make this thing happen. And I guess one of the challenges there is really selling what the program is and why it's a bit different, because I think one of the challenges I've had sort of talking to people has been like, well, you know, is it a classroom-based session? And like, no, this is why it's slightly different. Again, not better or just different. So yeah, that's our current challenge and mission.
Thank you.
And Alisa, I think we had a chance to mention what's next for us when it comes to families and for the workplaces as well. But honestly, we believe that a rising tide lifts all boats, and you know, open to any collaborations and any outreach to be able to tackle this together, because I truly believe there's not one solution that we can all work together. So looking forward to collaborating with the rest of the panelists here as well.
Thank you. Thank you to all the panelists and to the audience members. I encourage you to reach out and connect with all the panelists and to chat with them. And I will say goodbye on behalf of all of us and conclude this session. Thank you very much. Have a wonderful rest of your day.
Bye.
Bye.